Let's dive into something that's both fascinating and honestly a little unsettling: the mental ambush technique. We're going to explore how some really high-pressure conversations are won not with better facts or stronger arguments, but by using something way more fundamental: timing. It's all about how your own biology can be turned into a weapon against you. You know, the most striking truth about the mental ambush technique is that it doesn't work by attacking your weaknesses. It works by attacking your clock. We all kind of assume that the facts of an argument are what really matter, right? But in these high-pressure situations, your own biological need for rest, for glucose, that's used to turn you into a compliant yes person before your brain even has the power to protest. Ever wondered why a certain person always seems to wait until you're exhausted, half asleep, or just walking through the door to start a big, heavy, serious talk? Well, this is the core paradox of what we call temporal sabotage. That exact moment when your prefrontal cortex is offline and your body is just screaming for peace, that's turned into the very mechanism of your own psychological surrender. So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll unpack that core paradox, why the clock often matters more than the argument itself. Then, we'll get into the actual science of cognitive depletion that makes this whole thing possible. After that, we're going to dissect the ambush into 3 distinct acts. We'll also explore the psychology of control that's driving it, and this is the important part: how you can reclaim your own temporal sovereignty. And we'll wrap up by really understanding why any decision made this way is, by definition, a decision made under duress. Okay, so the foundational idea here is temporal sabotage. And let's be clear, this isn't just about someone having bad timing or being a night owl. Nope. This is a systematic pattern where critical conversations are deliberately started precisely when you are least equipped to handle them. The whole strategy hinges on exploiting your body's natural cycles of energy and rest, turning your biological need for recovery into a tool for psychological surrender. So what's the end game here? Well, it isn't to logically convince you or to attack your character. It's much more subtle. It's a biological nudge. The technique is designed to create a state of such profound physical and mental exhaustion that your brain, in its desperate search for an off-ramp, starts to misinterpret giving up as agreeing. Your deep-seated need for peace gets mistaken for genuine consent. So how is this even possible? I mean, it sounds almost like mind control, but it's not magic, it's just neurology. The mental ambush exploits a very real, documented security flaw in our brain's operating system. And this vulnerability isn't some personal weakness, it's a universal feature of human biology. It's called cognitive depletion. So, cognitive depletion, what is it? Think of it like your brain's fuel tank running on empty. When this happens, your executive functions, the high-level stuff like logical reasoning, impulse control, and making complex decisions, they're the first things to go offline. In this state, your ability to hold a boundary, to fact-check what someone's saying, or even just to hold on to your own point of view is severely compromised. You become way more suggestible, not because you're weak-willed, but because your brain literally lacks the energy to put up a fight. Let's put this in perspective. On one side, you have a healthy, equitable exchange. Both people are rested, they're ready, and the goal is to actually understand each other. It's a dialogue that respects biology. But on the other side, you have situational dominance. This is where one person deliberately starts the conversation during the other's vulnerability window. Late at night, first thing in the morning, the second they walk in from a long day at work. Here, the goal isn't understanding. It's to bypass your critical thinking and just force compliance. This is a dialogue that exploits biology. Now, if you're on the receiving end of this over and over, it can actually create some really specific belief patterns. First, there's the exhaustion hook, where you might start to mistakenly think that someone staying up late to argue with you is proof of their passion or commitment, instead of seeing it as a tactic. Then you've got decision attrition, that feeling of being so completely worn down that you'll agree to anything, literally anything, just to make the conversation stop. And over time, this can lead to anticipatory dread, where you start caving before the fight even begins, just to avoid the sheer exhaustion of the next ambush. Okay, so now that we've got the science down, let's look at the actual mechanics. A mental ambush isn't just some random blow-up. It follows a pretty predictable 3-act structure. A good way to think of it is like a cognitive heist, where each stage is designed to systematically tear down your defenses. So this heist has 3 acts. First, you've got the transition strike, which is all about the timing. Second, there's the urgency flood, and this is designed to just overwhelm your brain's processing power. And finally, the fatigue close, which is where the deal gets sealed at your absolute weakest moment. Let's break down each one. Act 1 is the transition strike. This happens during what we call threshold moments. These are those transitional periods in your day, like when you're walking through the door after work, or just about to drift off to sleep, or right after your alarm goes off. These are the moments when your brain is shifting gears and your willpower reserves are naturally at their absolute lowest. And that is precisely when the high-stakes demand is made. It catches you completely off guard and way too tired to fight back effectively. Okay, on to Act 2, the urgency flood. So once you're off balance, the next move is to just overwhelm your brain. This is often done with rapid-fire speech, jumping between different topics, throwing a whole barrage of information at you. The technical goal here is something called working memory saturation. Your working memory is kind of like your brain's RAM. It can only hold a few pieces of information at a time. The urgency flood is designed to completely overload it. The tactics of this flood are pretty simple but brutally effective. By speaking quickly and just relentlessly, the controller stops you from being able to reflect. It makes fact-checking any of their claims basically impossible in real time. This cognitive overload often triggers a fight-or-flight response. You get that adrenaline spike, which makes rational thought even harder. You're just left feeling confused, overwhelmed, and desperate for it all to stop. And that brings us to Act 3, the fatigue close. So, after the strike aimed the flood, you are in a state of deep cognitive and emotional exhaustion. There's a term for this, ego depletion. At this point, your brain is biologically hardwired to seek rest and conserve energy. And right at this exact moment, a concession is offered. It's presented as the path of least resistance. Agreeing just feels like the only way to get some peace, to get the rest your body is screaming for. So you agree, not out of conviction, but out of pure depletion. So you have to ask, what's the motivation here? Why would anyone use such a destructive communication pattern? What's the psychological payoff? Let's shift our focus to the why behind all this. Because understanding the controller's motivation is really key to seeing this dynamic for what it is. You've got two opposing mindsets clashing in this dynamic. On one side, the controller's motivation is often about total narrative control. By forcing you to agree when you're depleted, they gain massive leverage. If you try to bring it up later, when you're rested, they can just accuse you of going back on your word. And on the other side, the target's vulnerability is often a deep need for conflict resolution. You might be someone who values getting it over with more than getting it right, which makes you incredibly susceptible to giving in just for that immediate sense of peace. All right, let's move from just analyzing this to taking action. Understanding the pattern is the first critical step, but the real goal is to reclaim control over your own time and your own energy. So let's talk about how to build up your defenses by reclaiming what we call your temporal sovereignty. The defense strategy here is actually surprisingly simple. It really focuses on awareness and boundaries. Step 1, conduct a temporal audit. Just look back and analyze the pattern. Do these serious, high-stakes conversations only seem to pop up late at night or when you're wiped out? Start asking yourself, is this real urgency or is it strategic sabotage? Step 2 is to develop what we'll call 24-hour buffer awareness. This just means you consciously and intentionally create space before you respond. You are allowed to say, not right now. And this is the tool you can use to create that buffer. This single phrase is incredibly powerful because it's completely non-confrontational and it's also undeniably true. You're not saying you're wrong or I don't want to talk to you. You're just stating a biological fact. You're reframing the boundary not as a personal rejection, but as a biological necessity. It's an amazing way to interrupt the ambush cycle without making the conflict worse. And this is so crucial to get. If you found yourself giving in under these circumstances, it is essential that you understand that your compliance is often a biological response to a form of social engineering. It is not a personal failing. It is not a reflection of your character, your strength, or your commitment. You are not a failure for succumbing to exhaustion. You are human. And that realization is what moves you from a place of self-blame to empowered understanding. So let's bring all of this together now for the final and I think most critical takeaway. Understanding this whole dynamic, the science, the pattern, the psychology, it really all boils down to one core lesson about what true agreement and consent really look like. And this is it. It's really that simple and that profound. Healthy, productive, real dialogue respects the biological needs of both people involved. It doesn't exploit them. Any conversation that requires one person to be depleted in order to succeed isn't a dialogue. It's an act of dominance. True connection and genuine understanding can only happen when both people are rested, present, and capable of their best thinking. Please let this be the one thought that really sticks with you long after this explainer is over. A decision made in exhaustion is a decision made under duress. It is not a free choice. It's not a true agreement. It is a signature obtained under pressure, and reclaiming your sovereignty starts with recognizing that you have every right to make important decisions only when you are fully rested and fully present. And so I'll leave you with this question to think about. Because this isn't just about defending against a negative pattern, it's about proactively creating a positive one. Think about the next important conversation you need to have. When will you schedule it? How will you make sure that both you and the other person are at your biological and cognitive best? Because that is where real resolution begins.